Well, good morning and welcome. This is Kirk in the morning, being the 12th of June 2023. Of course, we have so much in store for you on our health discussion or health dialogue this morning. We are just going to focus on sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease. Remember, every 19th of June, the world marks sickle cell awareness day, just creating awareness to the public as far as this disease is concerned. So that exactly what we are going to focus on this morning as we shed in more light as far as sickle cell is concerned. So we will be having a doctor on board just to help us in understanding this, and we also be having one Millicent Manga, who is a sickle cell warrior as well as advocate. But now let us just start by looking at what exactly is happening on the dailies. My name is Aida Munzatsi. Just to let you know that we are also coming to you live. That's on Facebook as well as YouTube. That's Kirk TV Kenya. Feel free to be part of this morning's conversation by sending in an SMS. That is via our SMS number 0111220044. You can also send in a comment. That's on Facebook as well as YouTube. So we start with what exactly is happening in the dailies. So on the Standard newspaper, of course, we have the headline right there. That is a diploma shocker to varsities. That is a proposal that is if this particular proposal passes, then a diploma and certificate courses will not be offered in universities. And just to read an excerpt right here in the Standard newspaper, in new proposals to be presented to the president later this week, experts say universities should not offer diploma and certificate courses, a move that will make many institutions drop facilities, lecturers and students. So that's a story on the 6th page of the Standard newspaper, so you can just get an in-depth story of these diploma shocker to varsities. That is on the 6th page of the Standard newspaper. And now just going to the 4th page of the Standard newspaper is on issues to do with the protest, where the Azimio leader Raila Odinga has warned of a mass protest if finance bill sails through. So we are waiting to see what exactly will be happening this week in Bunge, whether the MPs, of course, will pass the finance bill or not. So that's a story on the 4th page of the Standard newspaper. And on the 5th page of the Standard newspaper is still on issues to do with the finance bill. And the headline right there is MPs to amend disputed finance bill clauses. So, of course, we just await to see of what exactly will be happening in Parliament as far as this is concerned. And, of course, on the 6th page is the story that the Standard newspaper has given a priority. That is on issues to do with the diploma courses as well as certificate courses in the university. So we move on to the Daily Nation. And the Daily Nation is just talking of how President William Ruto is following on the footsteps of the former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. They're just giving comparison of different, of course, agendas that are both that is President Uhuru, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as the current president, that is William Ruto, just giving comparison over the different agendas that are similar. And they are looking at the housing fund. They are also looking at the CAS appointments. They are looking at CBC, as well as the failure that is for the current government on matters to do with the 2/3 gender rule. So that's the headline on the Daily Nation, where they're just talking of Ruto following in Uhuru's footsteps. So that's, of course, a story that has been given in-depthly. That is on the 4th and 5th page of the Daily Nation. And now just moving on, that is to the 3rd page of the Daily Nation. Of course, they are talking about the concert that happened during the weekend. That is a Boys to Men concert. Of course, they're just looking at the hits and misses of the Boys to Men concert that happened during the weekend. So that's on the 3rd page of the Daily Nation. And now on the fourth page, as mentioned earlier, that is just the comparison of the two governments, that is the previous government, of course, and the current government, or where they are talking of not so different. That is Ruto reads from Uhuru's playbook. So that's a story on the fourth page, and of course it spills to the fifth page of the Daily Nation. And now on matters to do with there is the deputy governor of Siaya County, and now the fate, of course, is in the hands of the senators. That is after the MCAs, of course, just voted to bring him out. There is William Odwol, the deputy governor of Siaya County. And of course, this week the matter will now be in a Senate, and of course, just to see whether the Senate will rule to or against the motion. Of course, now to the seventh page. That's on matters to do with education, even after the government released around 24 billion shilling to of course, the schools, but head of schools are still unhappy as the ministry releases these funds. That is 24 billion shillings. So that's a story on the seventh page of the Daily Nation. And of course, just below the seventh page, we are just looking at the Kenya-Djibouti bilateral being strengthened. Remember, that is President William Ruto is visiting. That is Djibouti, and that is just one of the top stories, of course, that the Standard newspaper has also given a priority. And that's all as far as the Standard newspaper and of course the Daily Nation is concerned. Of course, you can get yourself a copy and get to read in-depthly over the different stories that have been given a priority. So we've just looked at, of course, the finance bill, even as we wait to see what exactly will happen in Parliament this week, whether the MPs will vote for or against the finance bill. Of course, keep it Kirk TV, and of course we'll just be updating you as far as the finance bill is concerned. So that's all as far as the dailies are concerned. As mentioned earlier on, we'll just be looking at sickle cell anemia or a sickle cell disease in a few, where we'll be having an expert in studio to help us understand sickle cell disease. And of course, one Millicent Manga will also be sharing her story or her journey as far as living with a sickle cell disease is concerned. So that's a conversation that will be coming to you in a bit. For now, let us take a very short break. We will be back with the conversation on sickle cell disease.
Shaped by Faith is an exciting new exercise series led by health and fitness expert Teresa Rowe. Join Teresa as she leads you through a series of exercises designed to increase your energy, strength, flexibility, and endurance. Regardless of your level of fitness, Teresa will help you feel right at home as you pursue a healthier and more energetic life. Get ready to be inspired, encouraged, and motivated to shape your body and heart for God's purposes with Shaped by Faith with Teresa Rowe.
John Maxwell once said, "A reader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." Simply put, readership is all about vision and influence. Join me, Robert Waihenya Goge, the Secretary General of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, every first Monday of the month from 8 p.m. as we microscopically look at the reality, specificity, and simplicity of leadership only on Kirk TV. Specificity.
Uongozini, a show by the leader, for the leader.
Jesus said, "Call unto me and I will answer."
How can you just leave a job and it's from that job that we were getting food and our daily bread, and then you tell us that God spoke to you?
Consider your ways.
Whenever Jesus was not received, he moved on.
Follow me.
Brothers and sisters, in following Christ, we lose. You may lose relationships.
It's an individual calling. Somebody who is committed to the one they are following.
But what is the cost of following Christ?
Following Jesus is not always after other ambitions.
Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God.
Call unto me every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647. Losing a beloved one can be one of the hardest life experiences. Death brings a total change in many setups, the family taking a huge position. Death also provides an opportunity to celebrate the departed and their achievements on earth. Kirk TV provides for you an opportunity to announce death and funeral at affordable fee. For more information, write to us via announcements@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647.
Can I advise that we take this conversation to a more quiet place?
There is nothing to discuss. I am fine where I am.
What do you know about Flora?
You need to tell me what exactly you were discussing with Mr. Martins.
All I remember is he asked me to follow him to a place where there was no distraction.
You can't remember why he asked you to follow him to that empty class?
I can't remember.
What do you remember?
He raped me.
If you cannot remember the name of your former school, at least you should be able to tell us the name of your current school. What is the name of the school Mr. Martins teaches?
It's a school.
Did you not receive an envelope from a certain woman today? After discussing for more than 10 minutes.
You said 5 minutes initially. We have not yet received feedback on the charm you are giving to get them separated.
Daddy!
If you cannot think about yourself, think about your suffering children. And because of your selfish decision,
Baby,
I don't want you to get into trouble with my wife. I'm married to a dangerous woman, Kefu.
Baba. In fact, the charm Baba's friend gave me, that will also work perfectly.
What will separate you from the love of Christ?
nothing except wife.
I can't sign those figures. They are incorrect. They are too big for me to sign.
You either sign this budget or you are thrown out of this office shamefully.
Shaped by Faith is an exciting new exercise series led by health and fitness expert Teresa Rowe. Join Teresa as she leads you through a series of exercises designed to increase your energy, strength, flexibility, and endurance. Regardless of your level of fitness, Teresa will help you feel right at home as you pursue a healthier and more energetic life. Get ready to be inspired, encouraged, and motivated to shape your body and heart for God's purposes with Shaped by Faith with Teresa Rowe.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God.
what a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and griefs to bear.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
All because we do not care.
Rejoice, for your reward will be great in heaven.
Everything to God in prayer.
Jesus said, "Call unto me, and I will answer."
How can you just leave a job and it's from that job that we were getting food and our daily bread, and then you tell us that God spoke to you?
Consider your ways.
Whenever Jesus was not received, he moved on.
follow me.
Brothers and sisters, in following Christ, we lose. You may lose relationships.
It's an individual calling, somebody who is committed to the one they are following.
But what is the cost to following Christ?
Following Jesus is not always after other realizations.
Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God.
Call on to me every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647. Losing a beloved one can be one of the hardest life experiences. Death brings a total change in many setups, the family taking a huge position. Death also provides an opportunity to celebrate the departed and their achievements on earth. Kirk TV provides for you an opportunity to announce death and funeral at affordable fee. For more information, write to us via announcements@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647.
Can I advise that we take this conversation to a more quiet place?
There is nothing to discuss. I am fine where I am.
What do you know about Flora?
You need to tell me what exactly you were discussing with Mr. Martins.
All I remember is he asked me to follow him to a place where there was no distraction.
You can't remember why he asked you to follow him to that empty class.
I can't remember.
What do you remember?
He raped me.
If you cannot remember the name of your former school, at least you should be able to tell us the name of your current school. What is the name of the school Mr. Martins teaches?
It's a school.
Did you not receive an envelope from a certain woman today? After discussing for more than 10 minutes.
You said 5 minutes initially. We have not yet received feedback on the jam you are giving to get them separated.
If you cannot think about yourself, think about your suffering children. And because of your selfish decision,
Baby, I don't want you to get into trouble with my wife. I'm married to a dangerous woman, Kefi.
Baba. In fact, the charm Baba's friend gave me, that one also worked perfectly.
What will separate you from the love of Christ?
Nothing except wife.
I can't sign those figures. They are incorrect. They are too big for me to sign.
You either sign this budget or you are thrown out of this office shamefully.
I know there's gonna
Well, good morning and welcome back to Kirk in the Morning. Of course, as mentioned earlier on, today our focus on the health dialogue that we are having today is, of course, on matters to do with sickle cell disease. In studio, I am with, that is Dr. Deborah, who is a hematologist or pediatric hematologist and oncologist. And we also have Millicent Manga, who is a sickle cell warrior and advocate. And together we'll just be unveiling sickle cell disease. Remember, that is on 19th of June. The world marks World Sickle Cell Awareness Day. And of course, for this year, the theme is bridging the gaps towards optimum care and control over sickle cell disease. As mentioned, still, we are coming to you live. That's on Facebook as well as YouTube. So feel free to ask any question or a comment. That is via the comment section. Of course, you can also send an SMS via our SMS number. That is 0111 220044. Be part of this conversation. And of course, together, let us learn about sickle cell disease. And Dr. we just start with you. Just feel free to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, my name is Dr. Deborah Omedo. I'm a pediatric hematologist and oncologist. I work at Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital, and I'm happy to be with you today.
You're right. We're also happy to be with you, Millicent.
Good morning. My name is Millicent Manga. I'm a sickle cell warrior and a sickle cell advocate. I live in Nairobi.
All right, and I'm also glad to be with you, and of course we are looking forward to learn from both of you as far as the sickle cell disease is concerned. And Dr. we just start with you. For someone who is, of course, just hearing of sickle cell disease for the first time, or someone that has heard of the disease but they basically do not have an understanding of what it is, just help us understand first what sickle cell disease is.
All right, thank you. So sickle cell disease is an inherited disease that one gets a gene from the mother and a gene from the father. Now this sickle cell disease makes the red blood cells be shaped differently. Instead of being shaped round, they are shaped like a sickle. That means they are crescent shaped. They are shaped like this. They are sharp. Instead of being nice and round like this, they are now shaped and they are very sharp. They scratch the insides of the blood vessels. They break down easily. For someone who doesn't have sickle cell, the red blood cells are round and they are able to flow in the blood vessels very easily. They usually stay for about 3 months within the blood vessels, and then the bone marrow renews them. But when you have sickle cell, the shape of the red blood cell is distorted. It is sharp and they are sticky. So they easily scratch the inside of the blood vessels. They easily break down. They can break down every 10 days instead of every 3 months. And when they break down, they release a yellow substance that can cause yellowing of the eyes or even of the urine. And when they stick together, the blood doesn't flow properly. And now when the blood doesn't flow properly, it means oxygen cannot reach the different cells in the body. And it becomes very painful because now as the blood is trying to force its way and there's a blockage, the person will feel so much pain in their bones and in every part of their body. And that is what now causes all the acute and chronic complications of sickle cell. Yes.
All right. And there is, of course, sickle cell disease and sickle cell anemia.
Yes.
Is it one and the same thing, or is there a difference?
Yes, I think it's one and the same thing.
All right.
So when you have sickle cell, it means the hemoglobin, that is the red thing in the blood cells, it means that there's a mutation, meaning it's not the normal way it's supposed to be. And that's because you've inherited one S gene from your parent. So if both your parents are carriers, you might get one S gene from your mother and you can get one S gene from your father. So that means now you get sickle cell. And that means your red blood cells will be distorted. Yes, yes,
right.
yes.
Okay. And of course, thank you for explaining that, and I hope that we've understand in the most basic way.
Yes.
And now to you, Millicent. Of course, Dr. has shared that it is an inherited disease. So just let us know, of course, when did you know that you had sickle cell, and how was it even with your parents?
When I was born, I used to be sick most most of the time, and like my other siblings, we are the firstborn in a family of 3. And so I used to be sick each and every time, but it was not known before back then.
Okay.
Now the doctors used to treat me malaria until one day I met with another doctor at Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. He sent me to Kenyatta National Hospital so that they can come and carry out the sickle cell test, the genotype test. So I came to Kenyatta Hospital when I was 12 years, and that is when they discovered that I have sickle cell anemia. But personally, my both parents don't have sickle cell anemia. Yeah, I'm the only person who got sickle cell.
That's in your family.
Yeah.
All right. And what would you say are some of the signs that you used to experience even before the doctors told you that you had sickle cell disease?
Some of the signs I used to explain mostly was pain. My joints used to be painful, and I used to have a stunted growth. I never used to grow. Then my eyes used to be yellow most of the time, and I used to feel weak each and every time. I'm just tired. Yeah.
All right. And Dr. of course, before we get to the diagnosis, let us just look at Millicent's case.
Yes.
Of course, when it comes to treatment and the signs that she used to show, of course, she was being treated of malaria. What, are there cases, similar cases, or do the signs that is for malaria and of course for sickle cell, do they like mimic each other?
Yes. Thank you for the question. So one thing we need to do as a country is to have universal screening for sickle cell. So in most advanced countries, when any child is born, they are immediately screened and to check for sickle cell. And if they have sickle cell, the child is now put in the clinic and followed up, instead of waiting for the child to get sick and get symptoms. So as she had said, one of the symptoms that she felt was feeling weak. And the reason she was feeling weak is because the red blood cells were getting destroyed. And that now what causes anemia, meaning you don't have enough red blood cells in your body. And so that weakness was because the red blood cells are getting destroyed very quickly in the body. Instead of staying for 3 months as usual and then getting renewed by the bone marrow, they were now getting destroyed like even in less than 10 days. And then when they get destroyed, there's that yellowness of the eyes or yellowness of the urine. Because that pigment that's supposed to be in the red blood cells now comes out. Yes, and so then also when these cells, we said they are sticky, so they might stick and block the blood vessels. So now as the blood is trying to flow, the blood is not passing through, and now that causes a lot of pain, and that's why she was in pain during that time. Yes, and so when the disease is diagnosed early, there are some treatments that we can give that now reduce the pain that the patient will get. So one of the important treatments that we give is a drug called hydroxyurea. Now this hydroxyurea does something very special. When all of us are in our mother's stomach, we have our hemoglobin type is type F, F for fetus. And when you look at the blood cells of a very small baby or a baby in the mother's stomach, they are large, they are big, huge and round blood vessels. But as we grow, as we are born and then we reach 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, this HbF disappears. And then that's when if you don't have sickle cell, you have HbA. If you have sickle cell, now you have HbS. Now, when a person with sickle cell is given this medicine called hydroxyurea at the right dose, hydroxyurea helps the HbF to come back. And now when it comes back, instead of the cells being shaped crookedly and sharp and causing so much pain, they become round again. They become round again and round and big, so that now the complications of sickle cell are reduced. So they don't break down as quickly as when the sickle cell is alone without any medication. And now they're able to provide enough oxygen to all parts of the body. But now if you stop the hydroxyurea, the F goes back down and the S comes back again, and then now the cells will begin to become abnormal again. So it's very important to be able to get the hydroxyurea daily and at the right dose. The dose is never the same. Every person's dose is different. The dose depends on the symptoms of the patient. The dose depends on the weight of the patient and also on the full hemogram. There are some things we look at when we're looking at the full hemogram. That is a blood test that is done in most of the hospitals in Kenya. We look at the white blood cells. We would like them to be at a certain level. We look at the neutrophil count. We like them to be at a certain level. We look at the MCV. MCV tells us the size of the shape of the red blood cells. We want it to be as big as possible because we don't want it to be thin and that. And we look at the platelets. So those guide us to make sure that we adjust the dose. And that means that people with sickle cell need frequent clinic visits so that these adjustments can be made in good time. And when the adjustments are made in good time and the cells now remain nice and round, we find that now the complications of sickle cell, like the pain, the yellowness of the eyes, the damage to the different organs can be minimized. Yes.
Right, and I can see, Millicent, just the way you're nodding, it shows of your knowledge, of course, when it comes to sickle cell, and even as you've grown by, of course, you're now an advocate of the same, and of course, a warrior, as you would like to refer to yourself. When you were told that, of course, or when your parents were told that you had sickle cell, did you have an understanding of it, or that was something totally new, of course, to yourself and to your parents?
Okay, first of all, I used to live with my grandmother back at home. So whenever I used to go to hospital, even when I was sent to Kenyatta, we were with her. So the counselor, when the doctors carry out the test and it turns out positive, you're referred to a counselor who makes you understand better or have good knowledge about the condition. Now, I think personally, I didn't get a good counselor because back then, sickle cell was not something that people knew. Like currently, we are advocating, we are creating awareness. So my counselor used to tell me, oh, you know, people living with sickle cell, they don't go past 18 years. When you are 14 years, there are high chances of a person dying. And so we were just like, what can this disease be? Now, my grandmother just took it as a normal disease, just like any other diseases. Even me, I didn't bother. So when I was schooling, the only thing I used to see is that I was treated very different from other children because whenever you are with sickle cell, there are some things that the doctor advises you not to do, those exercises that makes you to get tired more easily. Now I was not allowed even to go for games, and I was not allowed to play football. Now I was being limited. Now after school, because when I was in high school, I used to face stigma because the students never understood. They will just come and laugh at me. I was the only person who was taking medicines each and every time they could see me. Now they used to say maybe she's suffering from AIDS because they just knew someone who is suffering from AIDS is the only person who is under medication each and every time. Now I faced the stigma and even the teachers, but okay, they understood, but not that much. Now when I grew up after high school, after facing all the stigma and everything, I came and I joined college. I pursued, when I wanted to take a course in nursing, but I started doing research about sickle cell. So the only thing I used to say is someone needs to eat good, vegetables, water. Now I decided to pursue a course in nutrition and dietetics so that I can personally know how to take good care of myself, because I used to know this is something that I will just get well. Now when I went to pursue nutrition, that's when I started to gain interest about sickle cell, doing more research. Now that is when I started understanding. But after high school in 2016, it's when I started to live with my parents. Back at home, they used to receive phone calls, say, your daughter is sick. They just knew it's just sickness.
So for them, they also did not understand.
Yeah, they didn't understand. Now when I started living with my parents in 2018, I got a very bad crisis. The sickle cell pains are called crisis pains. Now I got a very bad crisis. I was my liver. My liver failed. Now I became worse, and my parents have never seen me in crisis. Now they were shocked. You can hear my mother calling my grandma, oh, she's sick, what can we do? Now when I was admitted in Kenyatta, I was admitted for around 8 months to 1 year. Because the crisis was not going away, they used to do a lot of transfusions and Magi, the NS. Now that is when my parents were called with the doctors at Kenyatta. They were explained and taught about sickle cell, how they should treat me, how they should handle me. That's when they started understanding what sickle cell really is. Yeah.
Wow, and of course you also have quite a great understanding of the condition, even as you speak and share your journey.
Yeah.
And now Daktari Millicent has shared of some of her organs, of course, also being affected.
Yes.
She's mentioned of her liver.
Yes.
What causes this, and what are some other organs in the body that can be affected when someone has sickle cell?
Yes. So as we said earlier, in sickle cell, the red blood cells are shaped differently. So they become sticky. They block the red blood cells, the blood from flowing properly. And so if the blood is not flowing properly to the brain, you can get a stroke. If the blood is not flowing properly in the retina where that helps us see, you can have eye problems. If the blood is not flowing properly to the kidneys, you can get kidney injury. And for like her case, the blood was not flowing properly to the liver, you can get acute liver failure. You can even get gallbladder stones, because when the red blood cells break down, that yellow pigment can sometimes form stones inside the gallbladder near the liver. So sickle cell can actually affect any part of the body. Yeah, and that is why it is very important to make the diagnosis early, and it's very important to be on the daily medications. I talked about the first medication, which is hydroxyurea. Then the other second very important medication is penicillin V. Penicillin V helps to prevent infections. You see, in our body, we have an organ called the spleen, and the spleen usually helps us to fight many bacterial infections. Unfortunately, in sickle cell, because the spleen is so busy trying to get rid of the badly shaped red blood cells, it's now unable to fight the diseases properly. And so that means if you get a bacterial infection, you can easily become sick. So if a person with sickle cell takes penicillin V every morning and every evening, it helps to fight any bacterial infection. A long time it was thought that you should stop taking the penicillin V when you reach 5 years, but later on it has been found that even the benefits of penicillin V go beyond 5 years of age. So that's a second drug that someone with sickle cell needs to take every day to prevent bacterial infections. Then the third drug that is very important is folic acid. When the red cells break down, the folic acid is lost in urine. And folic acid is important in the building of the red blood cells in the body. And the red blood cells are so important because they're the ones that carry oxygen to all parts of the body. And so so folic acid helps replaces you need to take folic acid to replace the folic acid that is lost in the cells. And folic acid is also found in fruits and vegetables, especially the colored vegetables and the green vegetables. And so it is very important for someone with sickle cell to take folic acid once a day. It's just one tablet once a day. The dose does not change much. Then the fourth drug that's very important as well is proguanil. Proguanil is a drug that helps to prevent malaria, and it also helps to prevent the spleen from becoming too big. Some people with sickle cell, for some reason or other, the spleen can become so big and all the blood gets stuck in the spleen, and it's a very dangerous situation. So proguanil does two things: prevents malaria and also prevents the spleen from becoming very big. So usually if someone with sickle cell takes those 4 drugs on a daily basis and goes to clinic at least once a month or at least once every 2 months to have the doses adjusted according to their weight, they can do well. The complications can be minimized. Yes, it's not a cure, but it can be able to control the disease. Yes, and then when there is a crisis, as she had talked about, when there's very severe pain or a very severe illness, it is very important that someone with sickle cell be taken to hospital straight away. Sometimes they may need oxygen because usually the cells break down and become badly shaped when oxygen is low. So they can be put on oxygen and they can be put on drip, what you're calling a normal saline drip, a drip that will now help the blood to flow better. You remember there's a blockage in the blood vessels. So when you get the drip, it helps the blood to flow better. Sometimes the blood can be very low and that you may need a blood transfusion. And so it's very important for us who are well to be able to donate blood on a regular basis so that those who are suffering from sickle cell and need blood, they are able to get it when they need it best. Yes. Yeah. So it is very, very important for people living with sickle cell to have National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, because that when you have NHIF and you go to the hospital, you will not have to pay the bill by cash. You find at least it can pay for the bed for most hospitals in the country. And if the hospital is well stocked with drugs, many of the drugs will be free. And if you need to do tests like an X-ray or a CT scan, or you need an ambulance to transfer you to another hospital, NHIF usually assists most patients with that. Yes.
Right. Just to take you back, Daktari, Millicent mentioned that is the one in your family, and also she mentioned that the parents also none of the parents has, and you just, as you explained, of course, with the genes, if one parent is the carrier, of course they can pass it down to the child. How exactly does that happen, especially if your parents are not carriers?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So it is very likely that both Millicent's parents are sickle cell carriers. And sickle cell carriers carry the normal gene, the normal hemoglobin gene, which is A, but they also carry this abnormal sickle cell gene that is S. Usually most carriers do not have symptoms. They live a normal life and they just feel fine. They don't feel sick at all. They usually have a very normal life. Although there are few sickle cell carriers who get symptoms of sickle cell. Yeah, so we should always remember them as well, because some of them also have the same symptoms as sickle cell and need treatment. But most carriers do not have any symptom at all. They live a normal life. So when two carriers marry, they have a 25% chance of getting a child who is completely normal with AA. All right, then they have a 50% chance of getting a child who is like them, who is a carrier like them. Okay, and then they also have a 25% chance of getting a child who has sickle cell. And this chance is with every pregnancy. So with each pregnancy, you might either get a sickler, or you get a carrier, or you get a person who doesn't have sickle cell at all. Yes, so you cannot predict how it will be. All the children can have sickle cell. All the children can be carriers. All the children can be completely normal, or you can have a mixture. You can have a mixture, so you cannot predict it. Yes, and that is why it's important for everyone to know their sickle cell status, because you might be a carrier and you don't know, so it's always good. You can even be having sickle cell and you really don't know. We've had people living with sickle cell who have known they have sickle cell only when they were adults. Yeah, so it's very important to get the test. Everybody should be able to get the test. We urge government to make sure that everybody can be screened. We urge government to make sure that the tests can be done in every hospital and at an affordable price, so that people can know their status. They can know their sickle cell status, and if they have a sickle cell, they're able to start clinic early enough. When they are getting married, they can make an informed choice. It doesn't mean that you don't marry because now you're both carriers, but it means that when you marry, you know you might get a child who has sickle cell. So you make sure you test your children early enough and put them in clinic early enough, rather than waiting until they are sick or they get any complications. Yes.
Right. And now for the, of course, for the parents.
Yes.
And the tests that you've mentioned, are the tests like available in Kenyan hospital? And how is it to the public? Is the public aware of this? And do people come to you, experts, for such tests?
Yes. So sickle cell can be tested in many different ways. So one of the most basic tests is called sickling test. So it's a test where the blood is taken and they look at it and they find the cells sickled, and then you know it is positive. And it is a good test, and if it is positive, then we treat as sickle cell. Then there is also another test called peripheral blood film, where the blood is put on a glass, just like the way we check for malaria. And then the person looks in the microscope, and if the person sees the sickled cells, then they know for sure that there is sickle cell. But now there are what she called the genotypic tests, which are like more accurate, which now actually tell the exact type of sickle, because there are some different types of sickle cell. There are people with SS, there's some people with SC, there's some people with even SD, and many different types of sickle cell. So the genotypic test is good because it tells you exactly which type of sickle cell you have. So these tests are like HB electrophoresis, and nowadays there's even the high profile liquid chromatography test. So and then also they are now rapid test kits where you test like for HIV, just a drop of blood, and in 10 minutes you know your sickle cell status as well. Yes. So unfortunately, the genotypic tests have not been readily available in most hospitals, which is very unfortunate. So many times people are forced to go to some private hospitals, and sometimes it's very expensive. You might find it's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 shillings, which most Kenyan people cannot afford easily. So it is, to me, I would urge government and Kenyans as a whole to lobby to make sure that these genotypic tests are available in every hospital, and that screening can be done at birth for every child who is born. And even the rapid test kits are readily available, so that anyone who needs to know their status, the way we are easily able to know our HIV status, we should all be able to know our hemoglobin status, to know whether we are carriers or we are not carriers, or whether we have the sickle cell disease itself. Yes. So regardless of the different tests that you have done, once sickle cell is found, it is important to enroll in clinic and to be able to start these drugs and to have regular follow-up. And then for people who work in the emergency rooms in various hospitals, when the person comes with a sickle cell crisis, it's an emergency. Don't make that person queue for very long on the line. Please bring them forward. Put them on oxygen if they need the oxygen. Get an IV line and give them the painkillers, give them the oxygen, give them the drip, so that they can get better quickly. When a crisis is handled very well, very quickly, it doesn't last a long time. But when it is mishandled and the person is in pain and the pain is not solved properly, it's not given the right strong painkillers that they're supposed to get, then now the pain can even become chronic, and the patient can get so many unnecessary complications. So as health workers, we need to work hard to make sure all health workers know how to handle sickle cell, so that when they meet the case, they are able to diagnose it and to be able to give that person prompt treatment, prompt emergency treatment, so that they do not get the complications of sickle cell. Yes.
Right. Millicent, how has your experience been when it comes to the caregivers, of course, in hospitals, especially when you're now undergoing through a crisis?
At some point, I can't complain much, but the care has not been that good. You know, there are some hospitals with sickle cell, you can't predict. You can't see the signs that now the crisis is coming. I can just be on my way to work and then the crisis just comes. So you have to rush to the nearest hospital. Now there are some hospitals you go, maybe you find they don't have any experience with sickle cell. Now they are like, whenever you are in pain, what do you do?
So they ask you.
Yeah, they ask you, or you just see a doctor, a nurse takes out his or her phone to Google. And there are some hospitals, when you go, you are in pain, they just shout at you, hey, you are not the only patient. We have so many people here. And then they just come give you like Panadol, the IV. They just give you, and you are like, no, whenever I'm in pain, maybe I'm being given, there are some strong painkillers like morphine, pethidine. Those are the ones I use. And then you get some health workers don't want you to tell them. They take, yeah, maybe they think you're dictating them. Now there are some hospitals, they just mishandle you. Yeah, and there are some hospitals where you, personally, I always say, maybe you get an angel. That's what we call them. But when you go to various hospitals, most of the public hospitals, they are not serious. They are not. They don't have that concern. Like they are not quick. No, they will just treat you as a normal person. And I have friends, you get them being mishandled, and then the pain can't stop, it continues. And there is an extent where when you have a lot of pain, it can also lead into death in some cases. Yeah.
So how do you deal with this? How do you deal with such? Of course, there are so many challenges when it comes to the person, of course, living with sickle cell. How do you just go about these challenges?
So far, so good. Some of the challenges that I have faced. Number one, I used to have low self-esteem. You know, when I'm with friends, okay, most friends don't understand this sickle cell. Now people tend to take you're lazy, because most of the time you're just tired, you're weak, you just need to rest, drink water. Now they just take you as a person who is very lazy, and it's not that you are lazy, it is how your body is. That is one of the challenges, and that leads you to have a low self-esteem. You don't even love yourself. You each and every time you're just there comparing yourself with other people. I wish I could be, I wish I could do this, I wish. There are so many wishes. Another challenge that I have faced is when you're going to look for work or when you are employed. As I said early, the sickle cell crisis, the pain doesn't show you any sign. Like personally, this moment I'm very much okay. I can just live here and the next minute you will see me just in crisis. No, so many employers don't understand this sickle cell. Now each and every time you take sick offs, they are like, you are lazy, you can't meet our targets. Now you find so many people living with sickle cell are unemployed because so many people don't understand them. Again, you find people with sickle cell that don't love themselves, even in school, but they are very hardworking. But now, personally, when I was in school, whenever I strain so much concentrating, I used to get headaches. It got to an extent, I used to go to my clinic and complain to my doctor because the headaches were being persistent. Even I used to reach a point where I completely forget where I am. I just sit. Now, whenever you strain so much, you get that crisis. And if you can't be with someone who really understands you, they will get tired. Yeah, so that is another challenge that we have faced. Another challenge is when it comes to our health insurances. You find there are so many health insurances out there, but when you go to find one like Jubilee, AR, they tell you can just apply and wait for a period of 1 year. Like they don't help someone as much with pre-existing conditions, even NHIF. And then you go to some of the hospitals nowadays, you even pay for transfusions. The NHIF doesn't cover the transfusions, so they just cover the bed, maybe the drips. And there are some hospitals, they are well stocked, but some painkillers like morphine, pethidine, you have to pay cash. The NHIF doesn't pay for that. So those are some of the challenges. But personally, whenever I got to a point and I said no, now the low self-esteem, I don't want to be in that state anymore. I have to love myself because healing comes from you as an individual. So I started understanding myself. I started to handle myself first with care. Personally, whenever I feel pain, even wherever I walk, I have to carry some painkillers. When we go to the clinic, to hospital, apart from the medicine that Dr. mentioned, the daily like hydroxyurea, zinc and folic, we are given some painkillers in case you get pain and you are not near hospital. You can take the painkillers first, and if they don't work, that's when you proceed to go to hospital. Now personally, I work with painkillers, and when I understood my condition, there are things that we are taught in clinic, like drinking water. So most of the time you'll get me drinking water to hydrate. Now when you drink water and you eat well, you eat so many vegetables, you eat balanced meals, you don't get the frequent clinics. And then there are things that may trigger the pain. There are some people who can't play football, but personally play. With sickle cell patients are not the same. The pain I can experience is not the pain my friend can experience, because our bodies are very different. Even the drug that can work for me is not the drug that can work for someone else. So personally, I think I do so many heavy things, like and like how we are being warned. So when you are in high temperatures or low temperatures, someone experiences that attack, the crisis attack. Now I think with the sickle cell patients, what we need to do, like personally, it's understanding yourself. Just know some of the triggers that can trigger the pain and avoid that. That is what I do. And then, you know, when you grow, you're being told maybe that's you are that disease is witchcraft, you know. Maybe there's something that you did for a person and it's a curse. So many people tend to call it curses. Even in your family, even your immediate families, you find people, they don't really understand this sickle cell, that it is something that is genetic. You find so many people telling you, let's go for prayers. You don't pray a lot. You are not very spiritual. That's why you get sick. But that is not the case. Now, so those are some of the things that we face. But when you understand yourself and know how to take good care of yourself, with the help of your doctors and your family, you are good to go. You just live a normal life.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And Dr. Even as Millicent speaks of the myths and the misconceptions, of course, with a condition that someone doesn't understand, stigma is then associated with this particular condition. And earlier on, Millicent mentioned of the issue of age, where even the counselor told her that she won't be able to live past the age of 14, past the age of 18. What are some of the myths from where you sit as an expert? What are some of the myths and what's the facts about sickle cell disease?
So it is very, very unfortunate that she had to get such negative news from the counselor. The thing is that if sickle cell is handled well, one can live a full life. We know a Nigerian lady who died at 93 years, and she had sickle cell all her life. In Nyamira County, we have one of people living with sickle cell. He's now 73 years old, and he's doing well. He has one daughter with sickle cell. He has other children who don't have sickle cell, and he has lived his full life. So, like any other disease, one needs to just take care well. To me, I believe there's a lot of hope, but there's also a lot that we need to do. Number one, we need to make sure everyone is screened at birth, so that now you know your status early on. Then we need to make comprehensive clinics in all over the country and sensitize all health workers on how to manage sickle cell. so that during the crisis, people are handled well. And even in the routine clinic, the drug adjustments are made correctly at the right time. Yes, and if we do that, the people can live a fairly normal life and they can achieve great things. We have people living with sickle cell who are CEOs, who are doctors, who are nurses, who have achieved great things even in their careers. And we believe that sickle cell doesn't have to be a death sentence. Sickle cell doesn't have is not a curse. If it is understood well and handled well, then it can go very well. So what we need is for government to make sure that the way of diagnosing is available everywhere, and that there are all health workers are sensitized on how to handle it properly, and especially the adjustment of the hydroxyurea dosage. Because when it is that, when you do your full hemogram, you can tell here there might be a crisis, and instead of waiting for the child to have the crisis, you're able to adjust the drug. And when you adjust the drug in good time, now that patient will not have that terrible crisis that they could have had. And so that is what that is my mission. I try to make sure in every forum that I get of doctors to try to teach them how to make the adjustment of the hydroxyurea properly. Unfortunately, sometimes for some cases, the patient has already gone through some very serious complications like stroke, or the bones, especially in the hips, maybe may have been affected. Something we call avascular necrosis and all that. And sometimes with such severe complications, sometimes there may be need to do stem cell transplant to prevent further complications from taking place. And so. So far in our country, we had not started, but people are gearing up towards the same. Of course, stem cell transplant has its own dangers because the person has to be given chemotherapy and the immunity can go very low, and then they're given the stem cell transplants of maybe a relative who has a similar HLA type like them. For those who are successful, they do well. But sometimes it can be unsuccessful and there can be some complications. So it's not just done for anybody. So if someone is under good control under the hydroxyurea, not getting more than 2 very bad crises in a year, then maybe the stem cell is not for them. But for there's those who get very bad complications despite trying to optimize the drug as well as possible. For them now stem cell can be one of the solutions. Then the other solutions that are still under research is gene therapy. So a few cases have been resolved, but it's still under research, and so it's not yet available. There are some newer drugs that are given as a drip. There are some clinical trials still running in our country, and we are waiting to see the results of those. Unfortunately, they've been available mostly for the adults and older teenagers. Not very many of them have been there for children. But hydroxyurea, at least it can be used from children. Usually they start from 9 months of age, but sometimes if a child is symptomatic even before they have reached 9 months of age, with a good clinic follow-up, you can then start earlier. Now, another unfortunate thing in our country is that the hydroxyurea has only been produced as an adult capsule. And we know many children cannot swallow a capsule. We know that even a person who has a stroke maybe will not be able to swallow a capsule very easily. So we need our drug companies, we need to challenge our drug companies to make a dispersible tablet and to make syrups that can be available for the small children. So what we have done in our hospitals is our pharmacists sometimes convert the capsules into a syrup that the child can take. But it would be good that if the manufacturers could do that from the factory level, so that the drugs are readily available in syrup form or in tablet form that is easy, especially for the children. So that now, but when they grow up, they can now take the capsules when they're now able to swallow properly. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And to me, I think the future is bright. If we work on these things, we can now diagnose sickle cell early enough, we can put the right treatment in good time, and people can live a good and healthy, long life that is productive with minimal complications. And for those who have already undergone complications like the stroke or even the vascular necrosis, not all hope is gone. There can be rehabilitation. You can put now the drugs at the correct dosing so that you prevent future complications. And even with those complications that you have, there can be physiotherapy, there can be occupational therapy, there can be control of the convulsions if they are there can be nutrition therapy, and you can work with the orthopedic surgeons to do sometimes hip replacements and all that, so that now you can be rehabilitated even though you had gone through complications. And we have seen some children who have had terrible strokes, could not talk, could not walk, but with good rehabilitation they are back again, and they have bounced back again and they're doing very well. So to me, I know there is hope in sickle cell. All we need to do is to be organized as a country, make sure that our hospitals are working well and efficiently, the drugs are available at all times. We train the medical people how to adjust the drugs correctly, and you can live with sickle cell with hope, with courage, and be amazing. And instead of having and they turn the sickles into smiles, and so that everyone can come to the clinic happy and productive, going to school well and doing their work properly. Yes.
All right. And thank you so much. I think we will be taking a very short break. Of course, when we come back, we'll just be looking more, of course, even as Daktari tries to bring up the management, of course, and prevention bit of sickle cell disease. We are looking at sickle cell disease. Remember, June 19th, the world marks out, that is a World Sickle Cell Day. Of course, when we come back, we'll just be looking more into the theme of this year. So we take a very short break. When we come back, we will be looking more as far as sickle cell disease is concerned.
Shaped by Faith is an exciting new exercise series led by health and fitness expert Teresa Rowe. Join Teresa as she leads you through a series of exercises designed to increase your energy, strength, flexibility, and endurance. Regardless of your level of fitness, Teresa will help you feel right at home as you pursue a healthier and more energetic life. Get ready to be inspired, encouraged, and motivated to shape your body and heart for God's purposes with Shaped by Faith with Teresa Rowe.
John Maxwell once said, "A reader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." Simply put, readership is all about vision and influence. Join me, Robert Waihenya Goge, the Secretary General of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, every first Monday of the month from 8 p.m. as we microscopically look at the reality, specificity, and simplicity of leadership only on Kirk TV. Specificity.
Uongozini, a show by the leader, for the leader.
Jesus said, "Call unto me and I will answer."
How can you just leave a job and it's from that job that we were getting food and our daily bread, and then you tell us that God spoke to you?
Consider your ways.
Whenever Jesus was not received, he moved on.
Follow me.
Brothers and sisters, in following Christ, we lose. You may lose relationships.
It's an individual calling. Somebody who is committed to the one they are following.
But what is the cost of following Christ?
Following Jesus is not always after other ambitions.
Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God.
Call unto me every Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
Right, welcome back. We are still on Kirk in the Morning, of course, being a Health Monday. Our focus of discussion today is on sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia. Of course, in studio, I am with Millicent, who is a sickle cell warrior as well as advocate. And of course, I'm also with Dr. Deborah Omedo, who is a pediatric hematologist and oncologist. And if you're just joining us, of course, you can always go to our social media pages, that's on Facebook and YouTube, where we are coming to you live. And of course, you can just have the opportunity to have a look at what exactly we've been able to focus on and discuss as far as today's discussion on sickle cell disease is concerned. Dr. to you, to someone who is just joining in, let us just give them as maybe a reminder to those who are still following over what exactly sickle cell disease is.
Yes, you're all very welcome. Sickle cell is a disease that affects the red blood cells. For people who do not have sickle cell, their hemoglobin, that means the red substance inside the red blood cell, is usually AA. And so when two people marry who have AA, all their children have AA hemoglobin. And so their red blood cells are very normal. However, it is said that because of the prevalence of malaria in the world, people who live in places where malaria was very prevalent, a mutation happened in the hemoglobin gene, and it brought the S gene. So you find that people who have AS, who are sickle cell carrier or sickle cell trait, do not get a very severe malaria. So it was like a way of protecting them from the very severe malaria. Unfortunately, if two carriers marry, they can get a child who has sickle cell. And sickle cell now causes all those complications that we had talked about. Yeah, so when you get sickle cell, the red blood cell is not shaped properly. It's not round as usual, but it becomes sharp and very sticky, and it can damage the walls of the blood vessel. It can stick together and cause blockage of the flow of blood and provision of oxygen to various organs, and it can also break down very easily, causing low blood levels and causing yellowness of the eyes and the urine and other complications like that. Yes.
All right. Talking of malaria prevalent areas, as you put it, would you say probably just from other than the gene being one of the causes or risk factors of a sickle cell disease, is a region also a cause? Would you say that? So
in a way, we find a lot more sickle cell in places where malaria is more common. In Kenya, for example, we find sickle cell much more in the lake region, that is Nyanza, western Kenya, and also in the coast province, where malaria is more frequent. But the truth is, sickle cell can happen to any tribe and any race. It happens in all tribes and all races. And it's just that in places where there has been malaria for a long time, the gene mutation happened to protect people from very severe malaria. And so you might find a higher prevalence of people living in the lake region or in the coastal region, but that does not mean that other tribes cannot get sickle cell. So to me, it should be universal screening, not just regional screening. And for sure, now we are a developed country. You can live in any part of the country. So we can't just say we are going to give the services only in Nyanza. Why someone from Nyanza can live in Garissa, can live in Molo, can live any other part of the country. So we should not restrict ourselves to only regionals. It should be a national thing, because anyone can have the disease, no matter which tribe we have. In the hospital that I work in, we have very many Kisii people with sickle cell. I have met many Kalenjins with sickle cell. I've met Maasai with sickle cell, many Luos, many Luyas. I've heard of Kambas with sickle cell. I've heard of Embus with sickle cell. We have Giriama people, Taita people. So basically, this is a disease of every tribe, and so there should be no stigma or saying that this is because of this tribe or anything like that.
Yeah.
Anyone can have this disease, and the most important thing is to test early and to put and to start clinic once you know the diagnosis. Yes.
All right, and now to you, Millicent, even as you continue sharing your journey as a sickle cell warrior, the previous time when I interacted with you some years back, you mentioned over your fears, of course, as a sickler. Yeah, you mentioned over the fear of getting married. You mentioned over the fear of maybe getting a child who is a sickler. Are the fears still there, or did something change? Even because as you were explaining before we went for the break, you just talked of how you've let me say evolved and even living fully now, even as a sickle cell warrior.
Thank you once again. Okay, I used to have fears, and each and every person in this life has got his or own fears.
Yeah.
Not only a person living with sickle cell anemia, but I, as a sickle cell warrior, I used to have fears. I used to have a lot of fears, but then I think I was not still in that. I had not still accepted myself fully, and I think that one depended on the clinics I used to attend, how I used to interact with my doctors. You know, there are clinics you go, or some doctors, usually they are there to discourage you, to tell you negative things. You know, people with sickle cell anemia, getting pregnant is not very easy with them. Nini, you can't, or you don't get married to people from the lake, people from, you know, there are those discouragements. But as time went by, even as time is passing by, when I started becoming a sickle cell advocate, when I started to create awareness, because I knew when I share my story, I will encourage someone. More so, I like sharing my stories with the young ones, young children who live with sickle cell anemia, and then I always tell them, if I suffer from sickle cell and just have a look at me, I don't even look like a sickle cell warrior. Personally, I have never, I don't let sickle cell define me. I just define my life and God. Now, me, I always accept I'm a sickle cell warrior, or I suffer from sickle cell when I'm only in pain. Immediately I walk out of hospital and get out of that bed, I'm no longer a sickle cell warrior. I just came in as a normal patient, and I go to live my normal life. So I changed my clinics, and I changed the doctors I used to interact with. Now I got some doctors who gave me hope. Apart from that, I got some groups where you get sickle cell warriors. That's why I call myself a warrior, because we have a group, a WhatsApp group, where we call ourselves warriors, because this is something we are fighting, and each and every day we are overcoming it. So in those groups, I get to interact with so many people who are suffering from sickle cell, and so you can see someone who is sharing a story. And there's some time back, my doctor told me, we have a sickle cell patient who has 5 kids. And so the doctor taught me, he said, the only thing you need to know is accept yourself first, and then whenever you find that you are pregnant and you are a sickle cell warrior, the only thing you have to do is walk the journey with the doctors and the gynecologist. those are some of the things that doctors tell us. And so when the doctor tells you that, and you see your friends having babies, kids, they're getting married, you feel happy, and so you have to change that mentality. I can't do this, I can't do this. You just start working another new life, like I can live a normal life, I can get pregnant and bear kids. Yeah, I can be married. By the way, I changed my mentality because I never used to love myself. And what used to hurt me most is how, when I find this person, how can I start explaining myself to him? Hey, you know, most people just ask your name, where you live,
what you like.
Now me, it is more of just knowing my name. And in our groups, in our WhatsApp groups, whenever we interact, we have a wall called the Super Women Warriors. You find some people there, they don't, I think they have not loved themselves that much. Now you will find someone saying, me, I can't tell someone I suffer from sickle cell. And then you get them asking questions. At what point are you supposed to tell this person you're dating that you suffer from sickle cell? You get some people saying, I can't say. Let that person find out on himself or herself. But personally, I will tell you, actually, you know my name. The second meeting, I will tell you, I suffer from sickle cell. I think it's good you share as early as possible so that you can't go far and then you tell this person, or maybe we'll find out from someone else. Because when you are dating, there are high chances that the person you are dating will find your friends. Automatically he will know some of your friends, and it is not good when someone finds something concerning you from somebody else. You know, the way he will take it, it's not the same way he will take it when I shared personally. No, I prefer I just share so that that person can make a decision. I don't want to go far so that I can get hurt. I don't want to hurt my feelings. I don't want to waste my time. I will tell you so that you can go and make your decision whether you are ready to live with me, because living with someone with sickle cell needs a lot of sacrifices and understanding, a lot of it. It is not someone who can just say it's just a disease, we can live. No, it's more than just a disease. So personally, I don't have any more fears. Even I got someone, I'm planning to get married soon. Actually, I'm planning my wedding this year, November. And yeah, and I'm inviting even all my fellow sickle cell warriors so that they can know, even I live with sickle cell, actually I can get someone who can love me and I can live a normal life. Yeah, people with sickle cell can live normal lives. We are entitled to marriage, to have children, to run businesses, to do anything. Personally, I try almost everything. And I don't want someone who discourages me. You can't carry that water. Let me carry it. Let me get sick so that I can know next time. The last time I carried, I got sick. And again, I will try again and again and again until I prove. Hey, nikibeba hiyo, I automatically get sick. Yeah, maybe I have never lived a life like I can't do. I can't. No, me, I know I can do. I can do everything. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, and of course congratulations. I hope you're inviting me and Dr. All right, and Dr. Even as we look at the management bit of it, of course there is the perception as Millicent is bringing it out. There is how you carry yourself, believing in yourself that you can. In terms of management, you've talked over the medications as well, how to adhere to the medication. How about in terms of nutrition? Millicent had mentioned it earlier on. How do you manage yourself properly just to live your life fully as a sickler?
Okay, so a normal balanced diet is what is most important. So you need just a balanced diet with carbohydrates, proteins, fruits and vegetables. Sometimes I've come, more and more people living with sickle cell may also have iron deficiency anemia at the same time. And sometimes the symptoms of that will be the person feels like eating stones, soil, charcoal, or just inanimate objects. And so that may mean that their iron levels are low. And that means sometimes they may need iron supplements and they may need an iron-rich diet. So long time ago, they used to find that the ferritin levels at certain blood tests called ferritin were very high in people living with sickle cell. And it was mistakenly thought that they have iron overload just because of that one test. And so they used to be told that a person living with sickle cell should never take iron at all. But unfortunately, it was found, later on it was found that this ferritin can go high because of inflammation of any kind. And remember, sickle cell, there's a lot of inflammation. So that high ferritin does not necessarily mean that you have an iron overload. Because you can actually be having less iron than you need in the body, and that you may actually need supplements for the same. So they found that ferritin is not a very good way to measure iron. And nowadays, the way at least there are MRIs even in the government hospitals, they are finding like maybe MRI of the liver, the heart, might be a more accurate way to look for iron overload. And so we hope that more and more people will be trained to be able to do that. So you can have iron deficiency even though you have sickle cell, and sometimes you may need to have the iron replaced. And but the main thing is just a balanced diet. And hydrate. You need lots of fluids. You should not get dehydrated. So when you have a child with sickle cell, you want to be able to keep them warm, especially in this cold season. June, July will be a cold season. You want to make sure that they are warm enough. They have sweaters, they have socks, they have a kofia in the cold season. If you have electricity in the house, have a heater on so that they don't have to be exposed to cold. And then also in the extremes of temperature, when it is very, very hot, they should be able to drink enough so that they are not dehydrated. And they need to drink enough so they are not dehydrated. So things like very, very bad cold or very, very hot weather or dehydration, those can trigger crisis. And then also, as she was saying, a sickle cell patient can still marry. If a sickle cell patient marries another sickle cell patient, all their children will have sickle cells. If a sickle cell patient marries a carrier, 50% chance of the child being a carrier and 50% chance of the child having sickle cell. If a sickle cell warrior now marries someone who doesn't have the sickle cell gene at all, all their children will be carriers of sickle cell. And so that is usually some of the information that one needs to know, and so that you know how, when you give birth, to make sure a child is tested in good time, and if they have sickle cell, make sure they are put in clinic in good time so that they are managed well and we minimize the complications in the child.
All right, and thank you for that. Of course, let us now look at of course, creating awareness about sickle cell. That's on 19th June, and the theme being bridging the gaps towards optimum care and control of sickle cell disease. What is your take on this, and why this particular theme?
Yes, so 19th of June is the World Sickle Cell Day. It's celebrated all over the world. This year's national celebrations will be in Vihiga County, but still even other people in other counties will still be celebrating in one way or another. Yes, so the theme about bridging the gap in care, as you have heard from Millicent, there's been some gaps here and there. The tests are not readily available very easily, and even once you know the test, not very many people know how to handle it well. So there is a need for us, for government to put in money to make sure that the tests are available all the time, and that medical people all over the time have the latest updates on how to manage the disease well, and make sure that the drugs are available. Sometimes it's so sad when you go to a hospital and you find the drugs are not there, the hydroxyurea is not there, the proguanil is not there, the patient has to buy it, and you find sometimes it's so expensive, and you can imagine the way the world economic crisis is right now, how difficult it is for those parents and those people living with sickle cell to buy those drugs. So government has to invest in people living with sickle cell, just to make sure that the drugs are available. in every hospital, and that the personnel are very well trained with the latest way of especially handling hydroxyurea correctly. And when a person has a crisis, the oxygen is available, the drip is available, the blood is available. That means we need to have a very robust and well-working blood bank service in our country. And once we do that well, we will be able to, the people living with sickle cell will not get the complications, and they can be able to live a full and healthy life. Yes.
All right, and Millicent, you mentioned of how you, of course, create awareness in your community, talking to people in charge, talking to your fellow, of course, sickle cell warrior. As the world marks, that is a World Sickle Cell Day on 19th of June. Do you have any activities planned, or what exactly will you be doing as an advocate of sickle cell?
Okay, as we are going to celebrate the World Sickle Cell Day on 19th of this month, where I go from my hospital clinics, we have a sickle cell match. We will be having a sickle cell match. Okay, we will be playing football. And we will be wearing on our t-shirts. I think we will be some of us warriors versus the normal people, like to show the world that we can play the football, we can do every little thing that a normal person does. And there is also a walk for sickle cell Kenya. It will take place from the Aga Khan walk to Arboretum, National Focal Arboretum, and they will be talking about strengthening the sickle cell patients, to give them strength and hope. So we will be having that work. I think it is going to be led by Akuku Danger. Akuku Danger is the one who is going to lead us, and it will take place in the 18th of, I think, next Sunday. It will take place on Sunday. And we saw it better for it to take place on 18th, because 18th is a Sunday and so many people are available. So even as we are going to walk, we are going to let me call it preaching. So people will be seeing. There are so many people who don't even have knowledge that there is a condition known as sickle cell. Now with our t-shirts on, doing that work, people will just be reading sickle cell, work for sickle cell. And now from there, you will get someone is very interested. I saw some people in town with white t-shirts. What is this sickle cell? And we want to create awareness. And even if we call ourselves warriors, there are some things that we have not still accepted. We are going to try to interact so that to know how to accept ourselves, because if we have not accepted ourselves first, we can't even create the awareness. We can't even give the hope to the young ones. Personally, I advocate and I create awareness in the slums, because more so in Mathare slums. You get in Mathare slums, there are very few people who have knowledge about sickle cell. Now, and when they find out that their children suffer from sickle cell, when they go to hospital and then they are being taught the management, the drugs, you know, people living in Mathare, how they struggle also with these economic times right now. They will reach to a point that they will deny those babies. You get to a point where you get fathers just tell the mothers, if it's not you, our baby could not have had this sickle cell. And the dad doesn't know that sickle cell comes from both of them. So we want people to understand. And when we are going to create this awareness, we are urging the government. My friends and I were discussing if it will be possible, at least we get at least 3 or 2 good hospitals that understand sickle cell, because there are some clinics you go, this clinic visit, you find a different doctor. The next clinic, you find a different doctor. He tells you different things. The next one, we just want a hospital that understands what sickle cell is and how they can manage the sickle cell. And we are urging the government to consider us for when it comes in the insurance parts. Now imagine you go to register for an insurance and you are told to wait for 1 year. Now it's like the insurers expect us not to get sick for that 1 year, so that you can start using that insurance after 1 year, and you have to get sick. So we just want a cover at least that will accept us with the pre-existing conditions, not only for sickle cell, even for cancer patients. Yeah, and another thing, the prices of our drugs. You know, like hydroxyurea that Daktari is saying, there are some places a person can buy 1 tablet of hydroxyurea at 55 shillings. And you get a patient is, for example, me, I take 4 hydroxyurea in a day. Imagine I buy 4 at 55 and I'm supposed to take the hydroxyurea for 1 month, or not even for 1 month, for 1 year, for the rest of my life. You know, it gets to a point where you have to skip because you have to buy food, you have to buy other drugs, you have to go for clinic. In that clinic there are tests. In each and every clinic you go, there are tests that doctors run to, so that they can know your HB levels. So we are advocating, or we are creating awareness, so that the government can at least lower the prices of the tests that we are told to go and run, even for the medicines that we use. For example, when you go to some hospitals and you are being covered by NHIF, but you're told blood transfusions you have to pay cash. For transfusion, for I don't know, cross matching, it's too costly. So, and there are some drugs that we use like pethidine. You have to pay. In some hospitals, 1 pethidine costs 1,500, 1,000, depending on the hospital that you've gone. In public hospitals, you can get the painkillers, but before you get them, we call them utakuwa struggle. So they have to start you on Panadol before they get there. So we are urging the government and even people, when a sickle cell patient comes to your office to look for a job opportunity, please just give them. And when we have to explain ourselves, you know, personally I can't just go attend an interview. Whenever I go to an interview and I'm contacted that I have been selected, I have to go and explain myself. Now I got to discover that after explaining myself, that chance is taken away from me, because they'll be like, she can't perform. No, we need to work, we need jobs, so that we can get money to take good care of ourselves. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that. And even as we wind up, Daktari, very briefly, Millicent is talking of course, even as the theme goes, bridging the gap up to optimize the control and care of sickle cell. She's talked of having hospitals that only deal with sickle cell. You see the way we have cancer centers. Do you think that is a place as a country we should be at?
So it is, to me, my thinking would be like that for HIV. In HIV, at first it was supposed to be a disease for very, very, very clever consultants and only professors. And remember, there's ARVs used to be very, very expensive. It was only the very rich who could get ARVs. And it was like a death sentence. If you have HIV, you should not even give birth. You should not do what? You remember that stigma that was there. But we saw how that stigma was reversed. We found that now there was a program that would now put good money in and make sure that everyone is trained, not only the professors, but even the lowest cadre, the nurse, the clinical officer is trained, and the diseases are provided for free. And the tests are done for free, and the guidelines are always, all the health workers are always given guidelines on the latest, and the clinics are available everywhere, from dispensaries to the most posh hospital. I think that is the approach that will be successful for sickle cell. Once we make it a program where testing is free or affordable, and that every hospital is sensitized, and every health worker, from a professor to the lowest community health volunteer or a nurse, and every dispensary hospital has got the drugs and they're available. that's when we're going to have good success. To me, I think that programmatic approach will be the best. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that. And any last words?
So many times I find families living with sickle cell. I find sometimes the parents suffering much more than the child. I've seen families breaking up. I've seen husband and wives living in tension. I've seen some parents even committing suicide because of depression. What I would like to talk to you and tell you that sickle cell is not a death sentence. Sickle cell does not have to break your marriage. Sickle cell does not have to make you live in tension as husband and wife. Sickle cell, yes, it's a serious disease. Yes, it can cause some very terrifying complications. But if you accept it, and if you start good care, and if you love one another and support one another during the acute crisis and even during the chronic follow-up, you can live well as a family. You do not have to break your marriage. You can live well. You do not have to commit suicide. You do not have to be depressed. And you can see your child thriving. And even if there are complications, don't let those complications pull you down. Work together with the medical team. Work together with other warriors and put God first. And later, even those complications can be overcome. Don't allow the complications to mess up your emotions, to mess up your spirit, to mess up your everything that you do in life. There is hope. There is hope. Sickle cell is not a death sentence. Handled well, the patients can live a good life.
All right, thank you. Millicent, your last words?
My last words, I could like to encourage people living with sickle cell out there. Let us love themselves. As I said earlier, healing starts with you. You loving yourself and knowing how to take good care of yourself. Let's love ourselves. This is a condition that it is there. We can't escape. Now that it is there, let us learn how to live with it. And I would like to thank our caregivers and even our parents for working with us this journey. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy one. It brings financial constraints, emotional, spiritual, and maybe you find even your friends, the brothers to your parents, the sisters, they can't support you all through. There comes a time even when friends run from you because each and every time you're just there asking for help. Hey, today my daughter is sick, kindly help. They get tired. I just want to tell you that don't get tired. We love you. We love you so much for accepting us the way we are, and nobody should ever discourage you. Sickle cell patients or sickle cell warriors, I always tell myself I am beautiful. Actually, I do affirm myself each and every morning. I am beautiful. Every day is a blessing from God, and every day is beautiful. Be it you are sick, be it you are not sick, just live each and every day to your fullest. I want to thank my family for standing with me all along. May God bless you so much, even my friends. And as we are going to create awareness, let us even involve our friends. Personally, what I do, most of my friends knows I suffer from sickle cell. Joe, there are times maybe we are out with my friends, I have to tell them so that they can know whenever the pain comes, what they will do to help me. But if you don't love yourself and you don't create awareness about yourself and talk about yourself, people will not know. So I hope everything is going to work out well. When you are being told by somebody that you can't live beyond 18 years, I have seen people living beyond 100 years with sickle cell. They are having kids, grandchildren. I know it's only God who knows our lives best. So let us love ourselves, let us cherish ourselves, and let everyone be kind and loving towards the sickle cell patients.
All right. Thank you so much, Millicent. Thank you for sharing, and Daktari as well. Thank you for shedding in a light on sickle cell disease. All right. So that's where we end the health conversation this morning. Remember, we were looking at sickle cell
cell anemia or sickle cell disease. Once again, we've been able to learn more of what exactly sickle cell is, of course, risk factors, prevention, and most importantly, management for those that are sickle cell warriors. So that was Dr. Deborah Omedo, who is a pediatric hematologist and oncologist, as well as Millicent Manga, who is a sickle cell warrior and advocate. Just to remind you once again, that's on 19th of this month, the world marks World Sickle Cell Day. Be part of this and be part of creating awareness. If you do not, of course, not in a position to create awareness, just be part of understanding what exactly sickle cell is. Of course, Millicent has been able to mention of some of the activities that they'll be part of. So if you're around Nairobi or any other county where you'll see an awareness being created of sickle cell, be part of that, and together let us understand what exactly sickle cell is. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Aida Muzati. See you again next Monday on another Health Dialogue.